Obviously, good win. All wins are good, so we'll take it. Obviously there's some of the positives, but let me just say this: if you told me before the game, Coach, team's going to shoot 50% against you, 75 from the three, and you're going to have 23 turnovers, and they're going to have 10 more free throw attempts than you, but you're going to win by 18, I would say you're crazy, not happening. But that's what happened, and defensively, we did some good things. We forced them to 28 turnovers. We had a plus 19 on the rebounding edge. I love the fact that we had 25 assists on 37 made field goals. We had 23 turnovers. Was just a lot of them were unforced, and we missed some short point blank layups. And also a great thing is we had 66 points in the paint, which was excellent, and we probably could have had about 90 if we had finished a couple layups and didn't turn it over so much. So a lot of positives. Everyone here, and again, you got to give Austin Peay credit. They hit some good shots as well too. Obviously, they're a very well-coached team from Coach Luce, and who's obviously a Memphis guy. So we love Coach, and we're always rooting for Austin Peay unless obviously they're playing against Memphis. But other than that, we can also talk about Louisville. The ban is off from our players and from me that if you want to talk about Louisville, I'll just say this, and you can ask any questions. Next Saturday's game, 1:30. I'm calling for a blew out. But in the way that I look at it, it's another game. Obviously, it's the next game. So, as I've always told our team, the next game's the biggest game, the most important game of the season, just like Austin Peay was. The games before that, and our next game's Louisville. So that's the most important game up to this point. And then when that's done, Lipscomb will be the most important game. So that's how we'll do it. And we'll be ready. We'll have a good week of practice and be ready to go.
Josh, this will be a question I posed the other night because it's the same situation. You start the game off, you trailed 10-8, 15-44, I think was the time.
I think we were down 8-3 or something, too.
Right.
And then Antonio hit that three.
At the first media timeout, you bring in Johnson again. And the kid goes off, all of a sudden you're up to 15-point lead. Is he doing things quicker than you imagined he would do?
I mean, Jaron's a good player. I think there's no question about that, Greg. And, again, I've always said it. And I don't want to get too much into energy because I promised my wife that I wouldn't talk to. She said, Josh, will you please just stick to X's and O's and stop talking about energy all the time? And so tonight's the first night of Hanukkah. So I'm trying to give her an early Hanukkah Christmas present that I wouldn't talk so much about energy. But I would like to say on energy, air muffs, my wife, if you're listening to this, but he brings tremendous energy. He's got a motor, and he drags other people around him to be at that level. So he gets after it. There are some things he's got to do better. I mean, he's still got to get better in some areas, but he's a very, very talented guy. I thought Shaq had a really good stat line, even though he didn't have a lot of points. I mean, he had 5 assists, 4 steals, 8 rebounds. Obviously, DJ gave us a lift, and so there was and I thought Farrakhan came in and gave us some really good minutes. Farrakhan gave us really good minutes, so that was positive, really, really positive. Antonio hit some big shots in the first half to break the game open as well too.
Hey, Coach, 28 turnovers and 23. What can you do to continue forcing the turnovers while reducing your turnovers?
Yeah, we had too many turnovers, and a lot of them were unforced, just unnecessary. And that's just something that we've got to be better about. We can't have 23 turnovers. Now, we got our defensive intensity and pressure and the energy on the defensive end has been really good, and that's why we've forced them into playing, forcing 28 turnovers. But we just got to take care of the ball better. That will come. I mean, we had some uncharacteristic turnovers that we haven't really had. I mean, this was just some stuff that we just kind of threw the ball. It was kind of one of those weird games. There was really no flow, if that made sense. The flow was kind of up and down, up and down. So just one of those things. Also want to talk on Adonis. Adonis, he got nailed in the eye and right above his eyelid, so right above the eyelid there, and the actual eyeball. So he got hit on both. Brad Anderson, our trainer, told me that he if you needed him at an emergency, and I says absolutely not. Just take him out. We're not going to play in this game, just for obviously to be cautionary. They sent him to an eye doctor to make sure that everything's okay. We haven't got final results back, but Brad told me that thank God that doesn't seem like anything long term. So hopefully it's just Brad told me, the trainer, that he thought if he came back in that he'd have a little blurred vision, and if I needed him, an emergency. But I said, well, let's not even risk it. Just send him to the doctor, and so we'll wait for the final word from that later today.
Adonis is one thing, but talk about TB and what he gave you tonight.
Yeah, no, Tart came in and did some good things, Jason. He had 18 and 6, and he could have had about 30 if he missed some of those, missed some short shots. So, a few things that Tart has got to get better about, and he was good down there at that post. He did a good job sealing, but he could have even had more. He's got to finish the short shot, and secondly, when he catches the ball high, like on a rebound, he can't bring it down. We call it, you catch it high, score it high, and but again, that's just. I told Jimmy Williams, my assistant who works with the bigs, hey, we got to do that every day this week. Work on catching the ball high and scoring it high, not bringing it down.
You think he's doing enough, or has done enough to get a spot there?
We got to see how practice goes. We don't play till next Saturday, so we've got time to determine any of that before we get to that point.
Kind of piggybacking on that, I know you're into energy. You're also a little superstitious. Do you anticipate what the bench has given you in this now week to go, making some tweaks maybe to the starting lineup?
No, I don't. I got to, evaluate. I got to watch the tape. I got to get with the staff and really just kind of see where we are. And it's not about as much on superstition as, hey, if things are working, it's just like, if it plays working, why change it? Simple is powerful. So I like to keep things simple. I don't want to be trying to out coach my own self. So let's just keep things simple. So I'll evaluate, see how practice goes. The good thing is we got a whole week of practice that we can kind of see and let guys get after it, compete, and kind of go from there. And again, the next Saturday game is at 1:30. And it is a blue out. We're calling for a blue out.
Coach, next week, that's going to be a big game for the program and for people outside the program. It's going to be a lot of energy in the building.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be a lot of talking back and forth. What are you going to do to contain your players and make sure they take focus on the X's and O's and not get involved with too much energy?
Well, a couple of things here. Let me just say this. First of all, the whole reason this game has happened is because the fans, in a sort of a present or a give back to the fans about what can we do for you because you have been so good to us. And by the way, if you read Jason's article today, this was the 150th win at the FedEx Forum. Am I right on that, Jason? It's 100, and it's So that's a great shout out to Tiger Nation because that's not easy to do. That's a great home court advantage to do that, and that's a credit to the fans. So in a give back, they said, "Will you get Louisville back on the schedule?" So we scheduled last year a home and home, and we have great respect for. I have great respect for Coach Pitino. Obviously, I think Coach Pitino was our biggest advocate publicly, besides us, everyone here at Memphis, of getting us in the Big East. So, and like Peyton Siva, I spent many years recruiting him, even when he was a seventh grader back when I was at Arizona. So I've known Peyton. We know those guys, and so there's not going to be any trash talking or anything like that. Yeah, there won't be. Well, I'm saying as in terms of the players, there won't be anything like that. And the way that we have respect for Louisville, and we know they're a tremendous program, and the way that we look at it, it's going to be a great game, and it's two high level teams, and we'll be ready to get after it, as I'm sure they will too. So we just know that more than Louisville, if you come to my practices, it's more about Memphis, and as we continue to move forward, that's the best thing that we can do is be about Memphis.
Josh, let me follow up on what Matt asked you about starting lineups. And I know it's not the most important thing. The bulk of the minutes being played, who's in there in the end is probably more important. But the fact is the last two games you talked about, you don't want to mess with something successful, but you were trailing both times for the first media timeout. And the way that guy brings the energy, Johnson, in there, and you all of a sudden take the lead, could you afford to fall behind a Louisville as opposed to an Austin Peay? No disrespect to the Governors.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, Greg, and I just got to evaluate it, and I just got to. I don't want to say anything without watching the tape, evaluating, really having a feel, and just seeing what's best for our team, and I'll let things how they go in practice, and I'll get with the staff, and obviously I've got tremendous assistants, and I'll lean on them as well too. And again. As you see how I do, if things aren't going a certain group, I sub quickly. If I don't like a certain group, how things are going, whatever group brings energy, I usually go with that group.
You like having the time in between
games particularly for Crawford, who's not a...
Yeah, no, this is good. Well, one, we got finals, so there was no option, but it had to be done. And then secondly, it's good for us because that way we get some guys who are a little banged up. DJ's a little banged up. Adonis is obviously banged up, and Chris Crawford's banged up, and G jammed his hand. Nothing serious, but again, so we got some guys a little banged up, so we'll be able to. The good thing was an early game today, get a win. You got 48 hours before we practice again, and be able to get some treatment tomorrow and get guys back healthy.
You may have already addressed this before I came in, but can you explain the energy that comes when Johnson comes on the floor?
No, Jaron brings tremendous energy, and like I said, the one thing on Jaron is he's a motor guy. He's got a high motor, and I believe in energy, and I believe in having a tremendous motor. I believe in that, and I've said it last time. Man, I'm wired as a human being. I'm a believer in an energy giver, and I'm just wired that way. And when you see guys who are wired like that with the energy level, it even gives me 2 or 3 or 4 extra peps in my step. And so it's contagious, and that's what it is. And it's contagious, and he drags guys with him at the level of intensity that he plays at. So, which is a really, really positive thing.